Andrew Huang, Learn Monthly, and these.
And I will stay here with you forever and ever, just me and you. You know I will never give up on you. I'm staying for life, no matter the price.
Hi there. My name is Dennis Cull, and I'm a musician and a music producer. This past month I got to do something really exciting, which was to take Andrew Huang's music production class on LearnMonthly.com. Those 3 tracks you just heard were projects that I wrote and recorded for the class. I've been following Andrew on YouTube for a couple of years now, and if you haven't watched his videos, Andrew Huang, check it out. But because of that, I've known about the class since he started doing it. But I never thought that I would actually do it. I figured either I wouldn't really learn that much, or that I wouldn't put the time in and actually get something out of it. But at the start of last month, I saw an ad for the class come up, and I thought, you know what? This is the perfect time to try it. So I gave it a go. And here I am on the other end of that month to tell you about my experience. So, what is this class? Well, it was a period of 30 days in which I wrote and produced 3 tracks. Each day, I would log on to Monthly to check out the day's assignments, which were either video lessons recorded by Andrew, peer feedback assignments, or submitting audio updates of my tracks as they were coming along. Now, this is a class, so did I actually learn anything? Yes, so much. I expected I'd learn a lot going into it, but not this much. Between Andrew's video lessons, my peers' feedback, and my own hands-on experience of making the tracks, I can safely say that I've learned more in this past month than any other time in my musical journey so far. Probably the best part about Andrew's video lessons was that they gave me an idea of where to approach my own tracks. His lessons were mostly pretty long, the point of them being to show you his whole workflow in creating a song. So he would start from nothing and try things out. And he showed us the things he tried that he liked, the things that he tried that he thought were good but weren't, things that he played and immediately discarded, all of it. Without being too long, it gives you a good idea of what the process is really like, not just like a lot of videos on YouTube where they show you a streamlined version of the process. Along with that, I also got a lot of really useful tips and tricks out of watching his videos. Things with ways to use plugins I'd never thought about before, ways to use automation and group your tracks, and a lot of little specific things that I think have made me a better producer. I learned a good bit from working with my peers in the class too, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Without a doubt, the biggest chunk of my learning in this came just from my own hands-on experience, because I would try to do things in my DAW, and very often I would run into problems. I didn't know how to do something, or something was bothering me and just not sounding quite right, and so I'd have to go look those things up and come back to it, and I got so much out of that. I'm not new to making music. I've probably made about 24 or so tracks before doing this course, so I'm somewhat familiar with my software and the different functions within it, but I still learned way more, way quicker working this way on the class than I ever did before. Now, the most tangible thing I got out of this class, aside from a smaller bank account, was the 3 tracks that I completed during the month. These correspond with 3 different units of the class and make up the 30-day structure. The first unit is all about electronic production, so it's making music inside of your computer, using virtual instruments. Even if you're not into that kind of thing, which I dabble in, but it's not really what I do mainly, I found it very helpful, and I think you might too. The lessons in this unit go over composition, so how to get started with an idea, how to add to that idea, how to expand that idea into a complete track with different sections and transitions, and then how to do mixing and mastering, the two main stages of like post-production editing, where you take your idea and turn it into a polished, finished product. My track for this project ended up being a kind of grand, sweeping thing that's also kind of beat-driven, groovy, if that makes sense. The second project was based on creating your own sounds. It had you working with samples that you record, and then also learning how to create your own sounds from scratch using synthesizers. So this was a mix of in-the-box music making and also collecting outside sounds. And it had probably my favorite project in the whole class. At the start of this one, you were told to go into some room of your house, be it the kitchen or wherever, and just record as many interesting sounds as you can and use those in the track. I ended up going down into my basement where there's a whole bunch of construction equipment, and I made a video about this, but I got most of the percussion sounds for my track from there. So the video lessons in this section teach you how to edit those samples that you found, and they give you a lot of ideas on working with audio and how to transform it with transposition or time stretching or things like that. Then along with that, you learn about synthesis, how to make sounds from scratch inside of a computer or on a hardware synthesizer. For this track, I ended up making like video game inspired music that's just kind of fun and groovy and upbeat. This was one of my favorite projects that we did. Then for the third one, it was a completely different thing. It was all about writing a song with lyrics and recording vocals and live instruments outside of the computer. For this one, Andrew did lessons on how he approaches lyric writing and has a whole video on writing the lyrics for his song and all the things he tried and didn't like and tried and thought were too cheesy, and the whole process of how we got through there, along with writing a guitar part and other parts to go with it. Then the other videos talk about editing and recording vocals and processing these live instruments. For this project, I made like an upbeat ballad kind of song, sort of like a jazzy Ed Sheeran sort of thing, that I'm very happy with. I think it's almost certainly the catchiest thing I've written to date. These three projects were each worlds unto themselves for me, completely different in tone, but the skills that I learned in each one built on each other. Things that I learned in the first unit, I kept applying in the second, and the same for the third, so that even from the first to the third project, I could see my skills improving as I continued to apply and practice what I was picking up. This class is definitely fast-paced. Anyway, it's fast-paced. As I said, the first project is 12 days long, the second is 10 days long, and for the last project you only have 8 days. The first project feels like you have plenty of time to absorb the new material and work through your project step by step, but in this other two projects, you really have to pace yourself to work quickly, especially with the last one. Now on the website, they predict about 1 to 2 hours of work each day, which I think is possible, but unrealistic for most people. Maybe if you were already very skilled, you could produce good results in that amount of time, but I think for most people, you'd probably end up taking more time than that each day, especially since several of the video lessons are over 2 hours long. I personally was very blessed to have a lot of time to put into this class this past month, so I definitely spent well over 2 hours on it most days, although I did take several days off. I also found it to be a very emotional experience going through each of these projects. I really felt all the highs and lows of it, the joys of coming up with something I thought was really great, thinking this is gonna be the best song ever, and the teacher is gonna love it and put it in front of the world. and then also feeling like I am not as good as I thought, and this is sounding bad, and I don't really want to do this. But one of the really good things that came out of this class was that going through that experience, which with really each of these projects all the way through the last couple of days, has helped me to become a lot more level-headed about my creative process, just to take things in stride and, let it play out. One important aspect of the class that sets it apart from just learning with YouTube tutorials or learning on your own is the peer group that you learn alongside. When I was first getting started with the course, I watched a video a lot like this, where a guy talked about his experience, and he said so many wonderful things about all the people he worked with and what he got out of working with them. And I didn't really buy into it. I thought, that's great, and I'm glad you feel that way, but I'm probably just gonna make my music and watch the lessons and just do it on my own. I wasn't really planning to get that involved with the peer group, but that was another thing that was different than I expected. I ended up learning some very useful things from the feedback my peers gave me, and I really enjoyed and grew by taking the time to listen to their tracks and give them detailed, attentive feedback. It's a good musical skill to be able to break down someone else's work, really try to understand it, and then point out the things that you can see them improve. And when you point those things out, those are more things that you can remember for your own music to do or not do as you see fit. Comments from my videos were really helpful. One of them gave me the whole direction for my second track, and another one of them was actually posted on the final version of my first track, and a guy pointed out that there was way too much high end in the mix. If you don't know what that means, take the class. And after I saw that comment, I listened to it and I was like, oh my goodness, you're right. I'm going to change that. I really wish somebody had pointed that out to me before I uploaded this.
Darling, I can't do that in a text. I wanna build a
Anyway, the peer interaction aspect of the class was really good most of the time, although it was a mixed bag now and then. Some people were a lot more engaged and gave you really detailed, encouraging, and good critical feedback. Sometimes you would just get a good job, coming along great, or maybe people might not notice a given update of yours. And also, by the end of the class, there were a good number of people who had started out strong who gave up along the way, but I suppose that's to be expected with anything like this. An important part of the feedback system is that Andrew Huang, the class instructor, actually gives feedback during the class. All the video lessons are recorded a while before and are the same in each class, but he'll actively go through and comment on your posts and give you really detailed and encouraging and good critical feedback. On one of my posts, whenever I first put the lyrics in for my third song, he had some things to say, and at first it was hard to hear it, but that feedback was really helpful and helped me to become a better songwriter, plain and simple, and refine that song's message a lot more. Now, there are a lot of people in the class. When I took it, there were at least 70 at the start, so I only got feedback on 2 of my posts throughout the time, but those 2 were very good guidance. Definitely the majority of the feedback you get comes from the peers that you have though. So, would I recommend this class? Yes, definitely, definitely. Who would I recommend it to? Well, certainly for anybody who's new to music, who wants to learn how to record their own music, especially if you want to make electronic music or pop music. This class has a general enough focus and will give you skills to produce in any genre, but it's especially geared toward those. I would also recommend it for musicians, maybe from the classical or jazz or any other world, who do a lot with music but haven't learned to record and want to, this will cover all of the basics of that in detail, and it's a really great start to being able to record your own things. And finally, I would recommend it to any beginner or intermediate producers out there who want either to learn a lot of the things that they don't already know, how to really do your mixing and mastering and use various plugins, or just as a great way to practice, even if you already know a lot of that, to have a 30-day structure, people to work with, and some professional advice. Then I would have to say along with that, it's going to be a different experience depending on how much you already know how to produce, how familiar you are with your recording software. If you're new to it, you're probably not going to get great results right away, although you will learn a ton, and it may take you more time. So if you are interested in taking it, feel free to reach out to me with a comment here, or if you know me, say hi. I'd be happy to talk about it with you. You can also find other videos like this of people talking about it, or go to the Learn Monthly website where you can see more. I really enjoyed taking this class, and I got so much out of it. A huge thank you to Andrew for your comments and for making this class and allowing us all to learn so much. Thank you to Learn Monthly for everything you guys did to make it work so well. Thank you to all my peers who commented on my songs and helped me to get better and just made it fun to do. Thank you to my sister for being an excellent lyric co-writer and collaborator, and to the rest of my family for listening to my music and putting up with my emotions and long hours and being great. If you want to listen to the songs I made during this class, you can check them out here on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever. I released them as the monthly EP. You can also check out my first album that I released back in August. You can definitely hear the difference in how much I've grown as a producer in comparing that old and new music, but there's still a lot of good music there to check out. Also, Monthly does this really great thing where it shares all of your updates along a timeline that you can link to, so that's in the description too if you want to check that out. And I've got more music coming out hopefully very soon, so stay tuned for that. Take care.
And I will stay here with you forever and ever, just me and you. You know I would never give up on you. I'm staying for life, no matter the price.